Everyone, let's talk about how to get more wattage out of your pedaling. So we're in the time of the year where we're seeing more people spend time on their bikes because it's bike season. Also, we're starting to see a continued trend of people training on their bikes, whether it's a Peloton or they're doing work on their Concept 2 or a Watt bike, just as a way of getting more monostructural work into their training. The problem is you're not taking full advantage of all the bike tech and decades of bike experience in racing and wattage savings. So what I want to do today is talk a little bit about ways where you can upgrade your foot so that you can have better energy transfer. To look at traditionally how we're thinking about pedaling, remember that most of the time when people are cycling full time, they've got a clip-in shoe, and that shoe allows for really efficient energy transfer. Notice that this actually is a carbon sole and has zero flex to it, zero give. So 100% of that energy coming through the foot goes to the pedal. If we kind of add that to sort of the way that most of us are riding, we're in these hyper soft shoes, which are great, but don't allow for a lot of energy transfer. So we end up getting fatigued, or the foot starts to flex, and we end up missing some wattage, missing some efficiency. Now that by itself can be easily remedied just by jumping into an indoor cycling shoe. So this could be, this is a flat shoe. This could be an outdoor shoe if you're running bear trap pedals, but even just switching to a shoe like this, which is stiff, torsionally rigid, and you could then step off and easily do some exercise with that if you're training in triplets and couplets. But what I want to talk about is sort of one of the things that happens with cycling that's sort of an artifact of the nature of the foot. Now, our foot was designed to be hypermobile. We have a ton of motion. We've got multiple arches. There's a lot of motion across the midfoot. And that foot is designed to come down and become malleable and sort of adjust to the surface that we're walking on. And then as I walk over that foot, the big toe starts to flex. We end up in translation, the plantar fascia becomes rigid as I walk over that thing. And now my foot goes from a dynamic, supple, mobile system to a very stiff system that transfers energy very well into the heel cord, right? So I end up flexing that big toe, the plantar fascia gets tight, I start flexing the foot, boom, I get all of the rebound, and I can really be powerful in that situation. The problem is that doesn't happen when we're on the bike. In fact, one of the problems with being on the bike, besides the bike makes us hyper efficient, is that when we sit down on the seat and then clip in, we actually aren't getting the kind of stability through the whole chain that we're after. And the nature of the pedal cycle actually makes it very difficult for us to take the foot and put it into a position where we get a lot of good mechanical sort of advantage from the stiffness and potentiation of the stiffness in the foot. So what ends up happening is that most people start to come across the top, and then the foot ends up seeking stability, and we end up seeing a lot of sort of very hyper collapsed arch in the foot. And that is a watt leakage. That is power just sort of dissipating through the system. It also tends to drive the knee in, where we end up starting to see sort of this knee making these circles. And again, that's another indicator, or what we call a pathognomonic cue, that, hey, I have an athlete who, again, this isn't about pain or no pain or injury or not, who is not as efficient as they could be. If you were jumping as high as you could off a single leg, it would not behoove you to collapse the arch and have your knee come in. So what do we do about that? Well, it turns out an easy fix is to actually take a page out of the pro cycling book. So there are plenty of insoles out. This is made by Specialized. This is a body geometry specific cycling insole. And what ends up happening here is that we do like a little bit of arch support in our cycling shoes. Now, typically, when we look at sort of what's going on, I usually run my shoes completely flat. The arch is a non-weight bearing surface of the foot. But in a cycling shoe, again, because I can't ever flex my big toe and sort of come all the way through into a good sort of toe flex position as I'm translating forward, I end up with a arch that collapses. So what we do is we try to support the foot a little bit. So if you're in a ski boot, you're on the bike, a little bit of an arch support is a good way initially to even just upregulate your power. Just keep that foot from collapsing. Again, only during your biking. Can we be flat-footed the rest of the time? Absolutely. Is the arch a weight-bearing surface? No, the arch is not a weight-bearing surface. We don't recommend arch supports in our athletes, primarily because that arch we want to be springy and dynamic. But in the cycling shoe, again, because of the problematic nature of being able to create a stable foot, a little bit of arch support makes a difference. The other thing that can make a difference is adding a little bit of what's called Forefoot Varus. So by twisting a little bit in the foot, the nature of the insole just adds a little bit of a subtle kind of 1.5 degree torsion in the front of the foot. That means that that foot ends up winding up and becoming mechanically more efficient. So as I come through, I'm able to tap into that power. That forefoot ends up being a little bit sort of biased so that I can come down through that big toe and maintain my arch. And what ends up happening is we automatically upregulate people's power. Also, we get in the credit that we have to do a lot less work of that knee tracking in circles and sort of being on a line because the foot is supported and so the knee doesn't dip with it. So in short, a couple ways to get more power. First, if you're running a shoe that doesn't have an arch support at all, mine typically don't, this is the shoe I run around in, then you could slip in a little bit of a shoe with an arch support that, again, temporarily while you're riding, that would make a big difference. You could go into and get more of a cycling specific insole that you just slip into any shoe if you find yourself doing whatever work you're doing. So even if you're running a sort of a minimalist trainer, slip in this cycling specific insole, you'll get a little bit more power to the machine, especially if you're doing big work blocks. You could also jump into an indoor trainer or an outdoor clipless trainer. Again, very, very stiff, allows for much better energy transfer, plus an insole, and Bob's your uncle. And if you wanted to, of course, you're always free to clip in. But this is a whole different conversation, and we have a lot of athletes who want to be able to jump on and off the bike, still perform some work, and still maximize their wattage and output without just having these kind of constant force leaks in the system. Simple ways to upgrade your foot to bike contact. And remember, it all starts at the foot. So if we can get you more efficient at the foot, we can see more efficiency expressed through your wattage, and whoever works the hardest wins. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel below. Thanks very much.